Laren moved through the wide halls of her mansion with quiet steps, even though she was one of the most powerful women on the entire planet Voluna. She owned large companies, transport fleets, and research teams spread across star systems. People respected her everywhere she went, but none of her influence could fix the one problem that mattered most to her heart. Her daughter, Aralee, had been paralyzed since early childhood. Every doctor, every healer, every specialist had tried. Some told Laren that Aralee would never walk. Others promised impossible solutions, then took her money and left with excuses. Laren never complained. She only cared about seeing her daughter happy again. Aralee spent most of her days in a floating chair, reading books, watching birds from the window, and smiling politely when visitors came to greet her. She had learned to live with her condition. She had learned to hide her disappointment. She had learned to accept that she would stay in the chair forever. But deep inside, she wished to stand one time, even if only for a single second. She never said it out loud. She did not want her mother to feel more pain. News arrived one afternoon that changed everything. A human engineer named Orion had come to Voluna as part of a research program. Humans were rare on Voluna. Most Volunians believed that humans were less advanced, less refined, and too simple to understand the complex technology of their world. But the reports about Orion were different. The researchers said he had a special way of solving problems. They said he mixed simple machines with new ideas and sometimes succeeded where others failed. His work with damaged neural pathways had impressed many people on distant colonies. Laren listened carefully to every detail. She looked again at her daughter, who was sitting quietly beside her, tracing shapes on her tablet. Something inside Laren whispered that she should try one more time. Even if the chance was small, even if others laughed, she wanted to try. For Aralee's sake, she sent an invitation to Orion, asking him to examine her daughter's condition. Orion arrived the next morning at the mansion. He was young, not more than 30, and looked different from the tall, glowing-skinned Volunians. His dark hair, brown eyes, and simple clothing made him appear even more human than the stories described. But the moment he stepped into the medical room where Aralee waited, he carried an air of calm confidence. He greeted Aralee first, not Laren, which surprised both of them. Aralee expected him to speak with pity, like other doctors did. Instead, he smiled at her gently and asked how she felt. She found herself answering with more honesty than usual. She told him about her childhood injury, about the failed treatments, about the strange burning sensation that sometimes moved through her spine. Orion listened without interrupting. Every few seconds he glanced at the medical screens, sometimes narrowing his eyes, sometimes frowning in thought. When he began inspecting the old scans, something changed in the room. His expression grew focused in a way that made Laren step closer. He gently requested permission to run new tests. Aralee nodded, curious despite herself. Orion connected small sensors along her back and legs. The screens lit up with data, numbers, and glowing lines. He studied them with complete concentration. Laren finally asked the question she had asked 100 experts before him. She asked if there was any hope. Orion did not answer quickly. He examined every piece of information and then took a slow breath. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but firm. He said the damage was severe, but not hopeless. He explained that her nerves were not completely dead. They still carried weak signals. The problem was that the advanced Volunian healing machines had tried to force the nerves to repair themselves at a rate too fast for the natural structure. Those methods failed because they skipped steps that the body needed. Aralee stared at him in disbelief. She had heard many explanations in her life, but never one that sounded like this. Orion did not promise a miracle. He did not offer a perfect cure. He only said that he could try a new approach, one that mixed human engineering with gentle nerve guidance. It would take time, it would take patience, and it might still fail. but there was a chance. Laren felt her heart tremble. She asked Orion what he needed. He said he only needed a quiet workshop, simple tools, and access to the mansion's old medical supplies that were no longer used. Laren immediately granted everything. Over the next weeks, Orion worked day and night. He spent long hours studying Paralyzed's nerve patterns and building small devices with wires, sensors, and flexible circuits. Paralyzed watched him sometimes, wondering how a human could be so focused. He always spoke to her kindly. He never treated her like a patient who was broken. He treated her like someone strong who could fight alongside him. Slowly, Paralyzed began to trust him. She even laughed at his gentle jokes. Laren watched their interactions with quiet hope. One evening, Orion came to Paralyzed with a small device in his hands. It had soft bands that wrapped around her back and legs and tiny lights that glowed faintly. He explained that it would help bridge the broken signals in her nerves. It would not force movement. It would encourage it. Paralyzed agreed to try. Her heart beat fast as the device was placed on her body. She felt a gentle warmth spreading through her back. Orion checked the screens, adjusted a dial, and smiled. He told her to try moving her toes. Paralyzed did not expect anything to happen. She prepared herself for disappointment. But then, something soft and electric stirred inside her leg. Her toe twitched. Her eyes widened. She tried again, this time with more focus. The toe moved a little more. She looked up at Orion in shock. He smiled with calm pride, as if he had known all along that this would happen. Laren gasped from the corner of the room. She wanted to cry, but she held back. She did not want to interrupt the moment. For the first time in her life, Paralyzed felt a part of her body react because she wanted it to. After that day, Orion created a training schedule. He guided Paralyzed through small movements, slowly increasing their difficulty. Each day, she gained a little more control. The device adjusted automatically to her progress. Sometimes the training was painful, sometimes she became frustrated, but Orion never let her give up. He spoke to her with encouragement and patience. Laren supported her daughter quietly, bringing her warm food and gentle words after each session. Then came the morning when Orion told Paralyzed that she would try standing with support. She felt nervous. She had not felt the ground under her feet in many years. Orion placed soft bars beside her chair. He held her hand and told her to trust the process. Paralyzed took a deep breath. She placed her hands on the bar and slowly shifted her weight. Her legs trembled. The device sent calm signals through her nerves. She felt strength she did not know she still had. Then she rose. It was not perfect. It was shaky. Her muscles trembled. But she was standing. Paralyzed looked at Orion with wide, shining eyes. He nodded proudly. Laren, who watched from behind a half-open door, covered her mouth with her hands as tears rolled silently down her cheeks. She turned away before either of them could see her. Over the next days, Paralyzed learned to take small steps with support. Orion trained her carefully, always making sure she did not push herself too hard. Her confidence grew. Her smile grew. She no longer felt trapped in her chair. She felt as if the world was slowly opening in front of her. Orion wanted her progress to be strong before Laren saw the full result. He kept the sessions private, waiting for the right moment. Paralyzed agreed. She wanted her mother to see her walk clearly, not stumble weakly. She wanted it to be a moment her mother would remember forever. The moment came unexpectedly. Laren returned home early from a business meeting. She entered the dining hall quietly, expecting to see her daughter sitting at the table. Instead, she saw Paralyzed standing near the chairs, holding on to nothing, taking careful steps around the table while Orion adjusted the device from a small control pad. Laren froze. Her breath stopped. The plate in her hand slipped. It crashed to the floor, breaking loudly. Paralyzed turned at the sound, startled for a moment, and then her eyes softened when she saw her mother. Laren took one step forward in disbelief. Aralai took a step toward her, steady and confident. Laren's knees nearly gave out as she whispered her daughter's name in a trembling voice. Aralai walked. She walked with slow confidence, her face glowing with pride. Orion stood behind her, calm and silent, letting the moment belong to them. Laren dropped to her knees and held her daughter gently, afraid she might fall, afraid she might wake from a dream. Aralai leaned into her mother's embrace, smiling with overwhelming joy. Laren finally looked up at Orion with eyes full of gratitude. He stayed silent, giving them space, but she could see the respect and kindness in his expression. Her daughter was walking again, and it was because of the one person no Valunian expected, a human who refused to give up, a human who changed everything. The sound of the broken plate still echoed in Laren's mind long after the moment passed. She had seen many unbelievable things in her life. She had traveled across star systems, made deals with leaders, and watched advanced machines built before her eyes. But nothing compared to the sight of her daughter standing on her own feet. Every time Aralai took a careful step, it felt like the entire mansion filled with a new kind of energy. Something warm, something full of hope. Aralai held her mother gently, still trying to balance. Laren touched her daughter's legs as if fearing they might disappear again. But Aralai stood firm. The device on her back glowed softly, supporting her nerves with precise signals. Laren finally released a trembling breath, holding Aralai's hands in hers. She whispered how proud she was. Aralai smiled with quiet joy. She had waited for this moment her entire life. Orion stepped back to give them space, but his calm presence filled the room. His work was not finished, but he felt peace watching Aralai stand beside her mother. It was a moment he knew would stay with him forever. Laren wiped her tears and looked at him. She thanked him in a way she had never thanked anyone before. Her voice was steady but emotional. Orion only nodded, saying he was honored to help. He explained that Aralai's progress was real and stable, but she still needed careful practice. Her nerves were learning again. Her muscles were waking up from years of silence. That evening, the mansion became a place of quiet celebration. The house staff, who had known Aralai since she was small, gathered in the hall. Aralai walked a few steps for them. They gasped softly, covering their mouths, some with tears in their eyes. They bowed to Orion respectfully, no longer seeing him as an outsider. Laren ordered a simple dinner for everyone, something warm and comforting. Aralai insisted on sitting at the table without her floating chair. She leaned on Orion for support, and he helped her sit carefully. Laren watched them both with deep gratitude. The next days were full of focus and change. Orion increased Aralai's walking exercises. He used soft ropes, bars, and small hurdles to help her build strength. Aralai trained with strong determination. She stumbled sometimes, but each time she stood back up. Orion encouraged her calmly, reminding her that progress was slow but real. Laren stayed close every day, watching every step her daughter took. She sometimes brought warm towels or drinks, wanting to help in any small way she could. Word of Aralai's recovery spread faster than Laren expected. People talked about it in the city. Workers whispered about it in the markets. Many did not believe it at first. They thought the story was exaggerated. They thought a miracle like that was impossible. But then someone from the mansion staff shared a small, blurry video of Aralai taking a step with Orion beside her. The image spread across Valuna, reaching news networks and medical groups. Suddenly, everyone wanted answers. Messages filled Laren's communication devices. Doctors wanted to know the method. Scientists wanted to study the device. Business rivals wanted to know how Orion had succeeded where they had failed. The government requested a formal explanation for the public. Some companies even tried to claim that Orion had used their abandoned research. Laren ignored all of them at first. She wanted Aralee to focus on her recovery, but she knew they could not stay silent forever. One evening, after a long training session, Orion sat in the garden with Aralee and Laren. The sky glowed with soft violet clouds, and gentle lights floated above the flowers. Aralee took slow steps along a stone path while Orion walked beside her. Laren walked behind them, thinking deeply. Finally, she told Orion that the government had asked for a presentation. Orion understood immediately. He knew the world deserved to see the truth, not wild rumors. But he also knew Aralee should be the one to show her progress. Aralee agreed without fear. She wanted others to see her walk. She wanted to help others who had similar conditions. She believed that if Orion's method could help her, it could help many others. Orion felt proud of her confidence. Laren placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder, knowing how strong she had become. The day of the presentation arrived quickly. Laren prepared a transport for them. Aralee walked inside, using Orion's arm for balance. The guards and staff bowed in respect. As the transport lifted into the sky, Aralee looked out of the window and smiled. She felt like she was finally seeing her world from a new perspective. Orion watched her, feeling quietly inspired. The large hall where the presentation was held was filled with leaders, scientists, doctors, and families. The moment Orion stepped inside with Aralee walking beside him, the room fell silent. No one spoke. No one even breathed loudly. They stared at Aralee with disbelief. Many had seen the video, but seeing her walk in person was different. Laren stood at the front ready to speak. She explained her daughter's long struggle and the failure of past treatments. She told the crowd how Orion had studied her nerve structure and created a device that worked with her body instead of forcing it. She spoke clearly, with strong pride in her voice. Then she stepped aside to let Orion speak. Orion walked to the center and explained his method in simple words. He showed diagrams of how the device supported the nerves slowly, giving them time to rebuild themselves. Some scientists frowned, believing his method was too simple. Others looked amazed, realizing they had overlooked something basic. Orion did not get angry or defensive. He simply answered every question with patience. When the questions were over, Laren asked Aralee to walk across the stage. Aralee took a deep breath and stepped forward. The device glowed softly under her clothes. Her legs moved with steady confidence. The crowd watched in complete silence. Step after step, Aralee walked across the wide platform until she reached the other side. Then she turned and walked back. The silence broke into loud applause. People stood from their seats. Some doctors covered their faces with disbelief. Some scientists leaned forward to study her movements. No one doubted it anymore. Aralee had truly regained the ability to walk. Orion's work was real. But not everyone was pleased. A well-known medical corporation leader walked forward and accused Orion of using old files from their research. He claimed Orion had copied their methods. The hall fell silent again. Laren stepped forward instantly, her eyes sharp. She asked the leader for proof. He could not provide any. She reminded the hall of the years she had trusted that same corporation, and how they had failed her daughter again and again. Her words were strong and firm. The accusations fell apart within minutes. The crowd turned away from the corporation leader, no longer believing his claims. The hearing ended with Orion being officially recognized for his work. The council asked him if he would be willing to help create new medical programs. Laren proudly supported him. Aralee thanked the council for believing in the new method. Many families came forward afterward, asking if their loved ones could receive similar treatment. Orion promised to study each case carefully. When they returned to the mansion, Laren invited Orion into her private office. She thanked him again, but this time her tone was more serious. She explained that she wanted to sponsor his research for the entire planet. She wanted him to build new devices and improve the method. She wanted Orale to join him as a partner so she could share her experience and help design treatments for others. Orion accepted with calm respect. He said he would be honored to work with both of them. Aralee's face lit up when she heard the news. She felt stronger every day, and now she had a purpose that reached beyond her own recovery. She wanted to help others walk again. She wanted to give them the same hope she had been given. Orion smiled at her enthusiasm. He knew she would be an important part of the project. Weeks passed, and the mansion's lower halls turned into research rooms filled with tools and screens. Orion worked with new engineers. Aralee tested new devices and suggested changes. Laren managed the funding and planning. Together, they built a program that changed the way Voluna understood healing. Each morning, Aralee walked through the garden on her own. Orion walked beside her, sometimes checking the device, sometimes simply enjoying the quiet moment. Laren often watched them from the balcony, feeling a peace she had not felt in years. Aralee no longer feared her future. She no longer felt trapped or limited. She carried herself with strength. She knew her legs were still learning, but she also knew she would grow stronger every day. Orion never took credit for her strength. He always said she was the one who fought the hardest. One evening, as the sun set behind the shining towers of the city, Laren joined them in the garden. She watched Aralee walk along the path, the soft lights glowing around her. She thanked Orion again, but this time her voice carried a warmth that was almost like family. Orion nodded, saying it was the greatest work of his life. The story of Aralee spread across planets. People began to respect humans in new ways. Many who once looked down on them now saw them as resourceful, patient, and creative. Orion never asked for fame. He only wanted to help more people. And with Aralee and Laren at his side, he knew they could bring change to worlds beyond Voluna. The garden breeze moved gently around them as Aralee walked forward with steady steps. Orion walked beside her, calm and proud. Laren watched both of them with a heart full of hope. Her daughter's future was no longer limited. It was bright. It was open. And it had been restored by the one person no one expected, a human who brought courage where others brought doubt, a human who created a bridge where others saw a wall, a human who reminded Voluna that hope could come from anywhere. Aralee walked confidently into that future, knowing she would never again face the world from a chair. She had risen step by step, and now the galaxy opened before her. Her mother smiled. Orion smiled. And Aralee walked toward tomorrow with strength she never dreamed she would have again.